Colorado gets a suggestion from the governor to stop gathering in large groups. But that means it's up to us if we're going to do what the science says. We sat down 6 feet from the governor to ask whether ski resorts and big stores are covered by his non-binding suggestion. Do we literally have the bandwidth to live life more online? And the coronavirus can't stop our Friday night tradition of sharing your good news.
6 feet, get away from me.
We got to stick together, just not too close. That's next. We don't know her name. We don't know anything about her life and how she lived it, all the important stuff. All we do know is that her life ended because of COVID-19. Woman in her 80s from El Paso County, the first known COVID-19 death in our state. We also know this woman had other health issues. So she is, in other words, exactly the kind of person that this virus is most likely to take from us in the coming months. Governor Polis today suggested social distancing for gatherings of more than 250 people in our state. But this is just guidance from the governor. It's not a ban, not an order, not a directive. Our Marshall Zellinger asked him about that and some other mixed messages coming from state leaders.
Scott Bookman, your incident commander for state public health, said multiple times on Next yesterday.
We needed testing months ago, but that time has passed.
And today you called for more testing.
It is far from enough here in Colorado and nationally.
Why am I hearing two messages from the same team?
No, it's the same message. I mean, we were clear today. What is the purpose of testing? It's to determine whether you can go back to work right after your symptoms subside because it was a cold or flu. Do you need to take those 3 or 4 days off and then go back? Or do you need to wait the full 14 days before you go back to work because it's coronavirus?
You want to stop large gatherings of 250 people or more unless they can keep 6 feet apart.
That's right.
What about a big box store or a large grocery store? Those have more than 250 people, and we can be crammed in there at once.
Well, that's not a gathering or a crowd. I mean, if you have a large store, or for instance, some people said restaurants, right? They're not going to be closed down. A restaurant, the tables, you are, I hope, 6 feet apart from the next table. I mean, that's a normal distance. You're probably 8 to 10 feet apart from the next table. So your group, you got your 4 or 5 people there. Again, it's fine. It's one of the key messages we wanted to send with the required sick leave for restaurant workers, food workers, hospitality workers is they have every incentive to stay home if they're ill. They will stay home if they're ill because they get paid if they're ill.
Why not tell ski resorts, you're closed, or you can only have 250 or fewer people ski in a day? Well,
that's ridiculous. I mean, 250 people skiing a day, you're talking about a huge slope. So what they are doing, and this is very important, first of all, outdoor recreation is a great thing to do if you have your kids and, biking, hiking, all of those great things that, in the outdoors. They have taken measures and are taking measures to make sure that on gondolas, which are closed, it's only one skiing group at a time, right? If you're skiing with 3 buddies, the 4 of you ride up on the gondola, there's not another group of 4 and another group of 2. Same on the chairlifts, where again, it's your group that goes up, you're not mixing and mingling with other groups.
If I'm going to the grocery store to stock up on things that I need, are you comfortable if you're that person in line with dozens of other people in checkout lines?
Again, I would encourage our most vulnerable population. If you are in your 70s or 80s, if you have respiratory problems, I would encourage, and hopefully your friends will offer this, I'll do your shopping for you and I'll leave it on your doorstep. That would be advisable. For those who are young and healthy, of course you're shopping. You're not near 200 people, you're just near one person on the other side. Let's put this in context, Marshall. Many Coloradans, and under some models, most Coloradans are going to get this, and most Americans are going to get this. For almost everybody, it's going to be asymptomatic or a minor cold.
Governor Polis is one of the rare public officials these days who actually appears to run some of his own social media accounts. And he tweeted to me this afternoon, trying to explain again this seeming disconnect on the importance of testing versus what you heard on this program here last night. What Polis said via tweet is that he doesn't think that widespread testing is needed from a medical perspective. It also would probably be impossible. He acknowledged it's not going to contain the virus, but he says that the sampling testing is needed in order to give us good information about its spread. The Denver Center for the Performing Arts clung to every last little bit of revenue, holding out as others closed due to COVID-19. Colorado Ballet canceled, MCA, Museum of Nature and Science, Denver Libraries, but man, DCPA held out, forcing patrons who are constantly contacting us to decide whether to take the financial hit for their tickets. That was until the mayor shut down events at city-operated venues today. DCPA was going with the nothing to see here route, like this email to staff yesterday from CEO Janice Sinden, writing, quote, while there are 9 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Denver, there are no confirmed cases at the DCPA. It told employees to take sick time or vacation if they had a family member who was sick or if they were ill. And the DCPA warned workers to know exactly how much sick time they had because they may need them if shows get canceled and they had to close. We asked the DCPA about that email. They told us that they decided to wait for official guidance from the city before canceling anything. There's a good chance that people who are at high risk for the coronavirus are the kinds of folks who have routine doctor's appointments. The hope is that they will consider telemedicine to avoid getting sick while they're trying to get well. Here's Anusha Roy.
Let's start with who's at risk. The group includes older adults and anyone at any age with chronic health conditions, including lung and heart disease, and those who are immunosuppressed.
But we don't want people taking unnecessary risks.
So doctors within Kaiser are clear about their strategy when it comes to keeping routine doctor's appointments in the midst of COVID-19.
We really are taking a virtual first approach.
So how would that work for, let's say, a physical?
A lot of it is really about screening,
which could be done over the phone, video chat, or even online chatting. You can also ask your doctor if it's safe for you to come in for lab work. And if you are not in a high-risk group, you can have this same conversation about telehealth with your doctor.
So we can decide if there are symptoms or issues going on that they need to come in and be seen.
This week, the state told insurance companies to remind members telehealth is an option. The Colorado Association of Health Plans says the cost is similar to an in-person visit and in some cases free, depending on your plan.
Those who do have that capacity are definitely stepping up.
Mental Health Colorado said this applies for behavioral health appointments too in the right circumstances.
Medicine can work well, especially once someone has an established relationship with a provider.
But for both medical and mental health emergencies, 911, an emergency room, and seeing a doctor in person is still necessary. And while telehealth is being looked at as a good option to reduce risk,
in order to make sure that care is accessible,
it comes with a few limitations, like parts of rural Colorado that may not have strong enough internet to support a video chat with the doctor, and there's the concern doctors may not get reimbursed enough to cover their costs. So if you think you may have been exposed to COVID-19, may have it, it is really important that you call your doctors first to get directions on where to go, what your next steps should be, where you can get tested. And that includes calling before you go to the emergency room, and that goes for all age groups. And the state has instructed insurance companies right now to provide any telehealth services for COVID-19 prevention specifically for free. You should not be having to pay a copay for that right now.
Copays obviously for folks with insurance. For folks without insurance who are being told, take your doctor's note to one of these private providers, and they don't have a doctor.
Yeah, so the state said that if you don't have insurance, you can actually go to one of their drive-up testing centers. You have to show some kind of ID, photo ID. Doesn't have to be government issued. You're probably not going to have a doctor's note, right, if you don't have a doctor or insurance. So you're going to meet with a nurse or an epidemiologist on site. They are going to decide that if you meet the criteria to get that test done, if you do need the test, and if you have to have that meeting, all of that, the state is saying, is for free.
And just so folks know, they can't use that system, show up with an ID, to shortcut the test. Those people are going to be turned back to a doctor to go and get the note. It's not a shortcut. It's just for folks without insurance. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nusha. Appreciate it. Tens of thousands of Coloradans are moving much of their lives online. Work, school, Netflix prior to chilling. Some of you have asked us whether we have the bandwidth for so much online activity. MSU professor Steve Beatty said internet providers really have built out service for our state's future population.
Internet service providers, be they phone or cable, I think they have quite a bit of bandwidth available, and so they probably haven't essentially at this point maxed out. They've overbuilt, which I think is a very good thing, clearly, at this time.
Now, keep in mind, people living in more rural parts of Colorado may not have the fastest internet connection, so they could be seeing more issues compared to the metro area. Well, COVID-19 did what the bomb cyclone could not. It's going to close the state capitol. Pending approval from the entire legislature, the leaders of both the House and Senate agreed to temporarily adjourn after tomorrow until March 30th. They're asking for an opinion from the Colorado State Supreme Court on whether they can work beyond their 120-day term on May 6th or whether the suspension puts the calendar on pause. I imagine at the end of this week you are somewhat sick of me offering my perspective on COVID-19, trying to get people's attention, trying to get people shifted from preparation to action. So tonight I offer you the thoughts of my colleague Chris Vanderveen.
In a country divided, we face a threat that sees us, all of us, as little more than a host. A virus so small our eyes cannot see it, yet so contagious we cannot avoid it. Our world has changed. As quickly as an NBA star can run down the court of a now shuttered arena, life as we know it is different and will be different for some time. It's why now, more than perhaps any moment in our lifetimes, our differences, whether philosophical or intrinsic, those differences must fade. Our divisions must erode. There will be plenty of time for partisans to pontificate on a political horse race that remains more than 200 days from its conclusion. These days, the race to slow a pandemic is so much more important than that. If we falter, if we stumble, the price paid will be far too high. People we know, people we love, people who love us. Take a moment in the days to come to check in on one, buy groceries, make a phone call, ask questions, provide answers. And then take some comfort knowing we are not alone in this. We will face this together. Whatever happens will happen to us. Not them, not those, not they, us. Look at it this way. Any virus that multiplies this quickly cannot and will not be fought in a country with so much division. Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
All right, what do you say? Should we talk about something else? Let's talk about brewing beer as a second career.
So I used to be a nuclear weapons missile maintainer with the Air Force.
Natural transition. A rocket man whose work making beer and building a small business in our state is getting some national attention. And your good news, delivered from the safe distance of 5 feet from our camera, still sounds good.
Finally here, and it was a wintry one, especially this morning, waking up to a bit of rain and snow. Those cloudy skies here in Denver still looks like it. In and around the Horsetooth Reservoir, those trees completely covered, the winds kicking up quite a bit. We have some clearing here around downtown Denver, but the winds have been ruthless, just relentless out there, especially east of I-25. Out at the airport, wind gusts close to 40 miles per hour. Still watching the storm system pushing across the state. Some good snowfall coming through the high country here in Denver. Haven't seen too much, no accumulation, with a bit of a rain-snow mix going into northern Colorado up toward Fort Collins and Greeley. Overnight temperatures falling to the 20s. We'll be watching the storm system pushing out, but tomorrow morning, especially along the eastern side of the state, a bit of patchy fog to wake up to. Some sunshine midday. The clouds start to roll in once again in the later afternoon, early evening, and then we finally start to dry things out. Daytime highs tomorrow much warmer. We'll stay in the 50s here around the metro area. How about 60 on Sunday? That looks good to me. Looking ahead toward next week, it should be mild with a few chances of showers, Kyle, kind of here and there. At the end of next week, we'll bring back a chance of snow as we welcome in the spring season.
This is great because being outside is like the last thing we can do.
With your family.
Yeah, it's great.
In the backyard.
Love it. All right. Thank you, Danielle. 10 years ago, he was making sure that our nuclear weapons were maintained in case the Russians tried anything. And now he makes an awesome Russian Imperial Stout. I've had it. David Levesque's work at Launchpad Brewery has earned him honors as one of Colorado's top small business owners.
It's become something big, a lot bigger than what we had talked about 5 years ago. So I'm David Levesque, the founder and brewmaster of Launchpad Brewery here in Aurora. So I used to be a nuclear weapons missile maintainer with the Air Force. There's a ton of different hops out there. One day someone said, "Hey man, you got really good beer, Dave." And I was like, "Thank you." And they're like, "You should open a brewery." I just laughed at it, and then kind of stuck in my head for a few days, and I was like, well, let me do a business plan and see what it looks like. So that's kind of where Launchpad Brewery came from. So that's kind of how we got here. Okay. Finding funding was kind of a big challenge when we started, but now the good problem to have is our challenge is just trying to keep up with production. We're growing at a rapid rate. We're growing faster than what I had predicted.
But before we get started, Look at this place, Launchpad, beautiful, right? Yes.
Keep doing what you love. We started small business because I feel we're all in it because we love it. I would just say, you know, if you're small business and, you know, there's ups and downs, but if you keep at it and you're doing it for the right reason and you're doing it for the love, whatever you're doing, whether it be brewing beer or selling clothing or whatever, as long as you're in it for the right reason, that I think it's going to be successful.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming out, by the way. Thank you.
Also just serves as a reminder that a lot of Colorado small businesses are going to be in for a tough time in the coming weeks. Today, your good news also doubles as social distancing practice.
Oh yeah, 6 feet. So 6 feet?
No, it wasn't quite 6 feet yet. They'll get the hang of it. We all will. It's your good news after a tough week. Next. I was ready for your Friday good news by about Tuesday this week. So let's hear what you love about life, provided that you can do it while socially distancing.
Probably right here.
I would think it's like the size of a man.
Yeah,
right
so
here?
That's like a 9-foot man.
Okay, right here.
Right here, yeah.
Is this 6 feet? Oh yeah, 6 feet.
6 feet.
About right here, I think.
My good news is the Minnesota Vikings release Xavier Rhodes today.
My good news is that we're here in Denver celebrating our anniversary.
That's about 6 feet.
My good news today is that we get to visit our brother who lives here, and we don't get to see him that much, so that's fun.
My good news is that I'm having a great time on scooters today.
My wife and I were married in 2010, and we're here celebrating 10 years marriage.
I guess since you guys are getting married, you can get close.
My good news is I'm about to be on TV. I'm going to say, hi, Mom.
My good news is that I was able to take a couple days off of work and spend time with my family here in Denver.
Will you be conscious of the 6 feet apart rule?
Probably not. No, not with her at least.
My good news is my good friends just got engaged this week on the top of a mountain in beautiful Colorado. And we're super happy about being part of something so positive.
I just celebrated my birthday last week, and then today we're married 10 years.
You kind of have to hold on to whatever joy you can have. There's very little in our control right now, and I think it's just about being aware, but also you have to keep moving forward.
I still feel like people are living and not just completely quarantining themselves.
You just have to keep kind of trucking along and being careful, but also moving forward, living your life.
We return with your feedback tonight, and it's a suggestion of some good news to come. A little project that some folks may be working on this weekend. Dwayne writes in tonight, can legal action be taken against the idiots buying 10 times more toilet paper than they need? No, Dwayne, we can't do that. I do encourage you to look hard at them while they're in the store, and perhaps they'll share some of that toilet paper with their at-risk neighbors. Jerry says you haven't talked about the baby boom that's going to happen in 9 to 10 months. Baby boom begins December 4th.